I'm Dr. Drolet still, and with PhD in biomedical engineering, and today I'm going to tell you a bit about the sources of all EM wave, a general simple model that could be viewed as generating all the electromagnetic wave on any frequency, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the waveform of life, that is the one used by the nervous system of the body and the one that we reproduce with the bioelectric remote generator. Okay, so let us just chart. We have a few pages to go through. Now the first one is what we call the rebirth of quantum light, with a very simple model that I ask you to visualize here. A little metal disc, okay, with a radius ray, and another disc here, let's say with positive charge here and negative charge here, and a distance, let's say dx between the plates, okay, and visualizing that when you have electric charge there, positive and negative, if the fluctuation exists between these charges, positive and negative, that will generate a magnetic field around this, okay? So roughly I'm going to mention about the resonance of this parallel plate capacitor, we call, and inductance of the vacuum space just around the capacitor, then the resonance frequency between the capacitor and vacuum inductor is given, the formula of the resonant frequency is given by the square root of the inverse inductance multiplied by capacitance, okay, and divided by 2 pi. But using the definition, the physical and electrical engineering definition of capacitance or capacitor physically and inductor or inductance theoretically, you have these. So roughly you have the capacitance, which is directly proportional to the dielectric constant of the vacuum, and the inductance is directly proportional to the permittivity of the vacuum, which are the two fundamental constants. When they are combined, the product of these two combined, the two constants of the vacuum, if you take the reverse of that, it gives simply the square of the speed of light. So there is a direct relation between the speed of light and the vacuum parameter, okay, electromagnetic parameter. So all I want to mention here is that when you actually use the physical definition, including the surface of the plate and the distance between the plate, the length of the magnetic field around, the surface of the magnetic field that would be going around there, and number of turns, in our case, n equal 1, because it's just one turn of vacuum around the capacitor. Then if we just do the elementary mathematics, putting these values there with the definition of the surface that is down below, we end up that the resonant frequency of the vacuum is simply given by the speed of light divided by 2 pi multiplied by the radius. This is showing that no matter what is the dimension of the parallel plate capacitor, or it could be the length of an antenna, there is an electromagnetic wave that will be produced in the air as the voltage across the plates are oscillating, and then we will end up just multiplying this by the frequency. 2 pi ray is the wavelength, we get the general form of an electromagnetic wave to be wavelength by frequency equals c the speed of light. And this applies to any dimension, whether it is an atom between the proton that is positive and the electron negative. It can be viewed as a parallel plate capacitor or simply separated charges with a little trick and imagination to define distance and surface area. And it could be applied to dimensions of inches, as we have seen earlier in another clip on the parallel plate capacitor, and it could be applied at any wavelength 2 pi ray from what is called the Planck's length, which corresponds to the highest possible frequency, okay, and the Planck's length is 3 times 10 to the minus 35 meter, which results from the general relativity theory of Einstein and the Big Bang theory. And of course, the wavelength could go as high as the radius of our universe defined by general relativity and measurement of the other constant, okay, grossly. Now, these theories there defining the limits of the frequency and Planck's length are well described in the book Astrophysics by the author Jean Everts, published by Duno, Paris. This, I don't know that it has been translated into English, but it is a wonderful book in French to introduce astrophysics, general relativity, and cosmology as well. Now, just a few words I said I was going to mention about the waveform of light. Those that we mentioned in an earlier clip about the demonstration of the resonance between the bioelectric impulse of the miniaturized Raumont system being able to stimulate 16 people simultaneously with the power of an electric razor. Here I just want to mention the waveform to show you roughly the waveform that you can see in the patterns in more detail. The waveform of the current going through the applicator as function of time, and the waveform of the induced voltage that is very similar to the nerve action potential, okay, and also similar to the calcium ion impulse involved at the synaptic membrane. Now here I just want to mention finally that the rate or the dimension defined earlier in terms of the Raumont patterns, it is defined simply, it is found to be the speed of light multiplied by the Raumont time constant, the time to reach maximum magnetic field or zero voltage induced. So this time constant there is simply given in the Raumont patterns, US patterns, is simply given by the square root of equivalent inductance, when you have more than one inductance in the field, multiplied by the capacitance that is given in the US pattern. Now, just to finalize this presentation, I want to show you a little diagram that is just like a tunnel of vacuum in which you would have an electromagnetic wave of resonance frequency that is function of inductance and capacitance of vacuum, and to make you realize that when you do the mathematics of electrical engineering, you realize that at resonance, if the frequency is at resonance with the vacuum frequency according to the dimension that are involved, then we have infinite resistance, electrical resistance, or infinite impedance between the sides of the tunnel of vacuum. But the impedance going on each side is zero. So that means at resonance, the energy that is in the capacitance goes to the inductance and then goes to the capacitance, inductance, and there is zero impedance. So that means that electromagnetic wave travel freely in vacuum and without any resistance. So actually this is just a diagram to show you that not only the wave will travel at the speed of light, but also because of the fact that parallel or straight line in the general relativity, where you have a very large mass involved, according to Einstein's general relativity theory, you will realize that even light rays will be curved by extremely large mass, like it has been measured for the light from some reasonably far source starlight that have been measured to be deviated by the sun in an eclipse, and it has shown that general theory of relativity from Einstein still holds true. So that's about it for this presentation. Just remember that the vacuum resonates at any frequency, and this frequency is given by the speed of light divided by the wavelength, where the speed of light, of course, is found experimentally to be the square root of the inverse of the product of the electric constant multiplied by magnetic permittivity of the vacuum. Okay, so this is about it, and just remember that all this seems to be a little bit technical, even a lot technical, but remember that it is with this kind of life, EM wave, the EM wave of life, that we can produce real resonance with the nervous system.